Hello everyone, and welcome back to Coffee and Kabbalah, our weekly exploration on deep and relevant life messages from the Parsha. I'm Kiki Newman, and thank you so much for joining. Today's episode, we are going to dive into Parshat Pinchas. We're going to talk about the 5 amazing feminist daughters of Slavchad who contested the division of the land of Eretz Yisrael and what we can learn about empowered femininity. We're going to learn about the original talking lottery from Harry Potter and the cognitive bias that fuels all our decisions and how to deal with it. Let's dive right in with a summary of the Parsha. Okay, so we begin the Parsha where we picked up last week where Bilam in Parshas Balak, the bad guy sorcerer, couldn't curse us. So on his way out, he's like, listen, I couldn't curse them. The only way that I suggest to you to get them to sin and to get Hashem's wrath against the Jewish people is if you get your princesses of Moab and Midian to seduce the Jewish people. Then if you get the Jewish people to be seduced by these women and then they get them to serve idols, then you can get Hashem's wrath against them. And that's actually what happened. So the Moabite and Midianite princesses come and seduce the Jewish people. They come to be their friend, to say, we don't want to fight with you. They seduce them. Avodah Zarah, in the height of intensity, they say, I won't lay with you unless you bow down to the Peor idol. And the Jewish people commit both adultery and Avodah Zarah. And it gets to its height when not only do the Jewish people sin, but even the prince, the Nasi of the tribe of Shimon, whose name is Zimri ben Salu, he and the Midianite princess are together in a tent, laying together. And during this time, a plague breaks out amongst the Jewish people, and 24,000 of the Jewish people are dying from this plague, from Hashem's wrath on what they did. And Moshe doesn't know what to do, but Pinchas, in the moment, has this zealousness, and he recognizes that the proper thing to do right now is to go and kill the prince of Zimri in the act of zealousness. So that's what he does. He goes into the tent on the tribe of Shimon allowed him to come in because they thought he was going to take care of his needs in this big lustrous tent, and instead he takes his stick and has a spear in one end, and in the act of them cohabitating together, he spears them in their private parts, comes out of the tent, holds them on this shish kebab in the air, and immediately the plague stops, and Hashem blesses Pinchas for his zealousness and says that Pinchas will have the brisi shalom. He will have the eternal covenant of shalom. He even gets the kahuna. He even becomes a kohen, and his forever, for eternal, as well as his sons for generations. And it's known that Pinchas ze Eliyahu. It says Pinchas is Elijah the prophet, he reincarnated or became Elijah the prophet, who's the one who's going to tell us about the ultimate redemption. So then, not just the beginning of the Parsha, so very dramatic Parsha. There's way more drama. There's crazy stories that the Medrash tells us in the Zohar that when he went into the tent and they saw what he did, in that moment, the whole tribe of Shimon started to swarm upon him to kill him. Thousands of members of the tribe of Shimon converge upon him to slay him, and his soul flew from his body in fright. And the Zohar says at that moment, Hashem sent the souls of his uncles, Nadav and Avihu, who had died. Nadav and Avihu, the sons of Aaron, who had died, because he was the son of Elazar, who was the son of Aaron, and his uncles, Nadav and Avihu, went into to enter his body to revive him. And at that moment, he became the Kohen Gadol, because they were the sons of Aaron, who were their Kohanim. So right after the story of Pinchas, which we may or may not focus on, there is the fallout that the plague stops, but now Hashem wants to recount the Jewish people because so many perished. So he tells Moshe to do a new census of the Jewish people, and in this new census, it comes out that there are 601,730 men between the ages of 20 and 60 years old. Now Hashem says, okay, we are literally 40 years later, we've crossed all these, so far, all the drama. We're about to go into Eretz Yisrael. We're going to fight the battles of Eretz Yisrael. So it will take however long it takes. But then what will happen? Who will settle where? We don't want you to start fighting and deciding amongst yourselves who's going to settle where. So Hashem says, I'm going to tell you now how the land is going to be divided. And this is the second part, which is Al Pi HaGoral. And the Psukim, I think I brought it for you in your sources. Oh, nice. Le'ela Techala Ka'aretz Benachla. This is how the land will be divided. B'mispar Shemos, according to the names. La'Rav Tar Benachla. So the many will have a larger portion of land. La'Ma'at, the smaller tribes will have a smaller portion of land. Tam Benachla. So Ish Lafi Pkudav Yitei Nachla. So then he says, but how will it be divided? Who decides? Ach Begoral Yichalek Es Aretz. Only through a Goral the land will be divided. Lishmos Matos Avosam. To the names of the tribes in Chalu they will inherit it. This is how the land ended up being divided. So the way it worked, the next pasuk says, Al Pi Hagoral Techalik Nachlaso bin Rav Lama'at. We hinted to this last week when we said that there was the talking inanimate object in the 3 preceding parshios. First, we had the mouth of the earth that swallowed Korah, the mouth of the rock that gave out water, where it says Al Pi Habe'er, And then there was the mouth of the donkey that spoke. And then in this week, again, I haven't seen a source for this, but it's just I noticed this connection, al pi hagoral. So what does it mean according to the mouth of the goral? Rashi says it's not just by chance uses the word al pi. Literally, the goral talked. It was the first talking Harry Potter hat, talking lottery, sorting hat, that's the word. That was so what happened was in the Psukim it says you take stones, because this is pre-paper era, and you write the names of the 12 tribes and 12 stones, you put those in an urn or box or hat. Then you take the 12 districts of Eretz Yisrael, the way that the Torah said to divide it from this border to this border, from this nation to this nation, divided like this, you put them in the next box. Then you pick one out, you pick the other one out. And that's how you know which ones, you pick out Shevet Levi, you pick out the North, Galil. Well, thank you. So you pick out Menashe, you pick out the Galil, and then they get each other. But the cool thing is that Rashi says, thank you, says the next page, source number 5. Goral Haya Medaber, the lottery spoke, Kamosha Parashti, like I explained, Magid and Ischalka Baruch HaKodesh. The lottery actually spoke out loud. So when they picked one out, it said, okay, Shevet Shimon will inherit. Let's look at the map. Shimon is in the south, like by Eilat in the Negev. Menashe is all the way in the Galil. My friend shared something really nice, Ora. I was saying, because we had this deep message about speech through we learned last week about the donkey and the earth. But what was the message of the talking goral? So she said something really beautiful. She said that our mouth, the way we speak, affects our goral. Our goral in life is our lot in life. The way that things will work out. So the way we speak about something determines its outcome, which is so powerful. It's true. If we speak about something in a certain way, that will determine the positive or negative outcome. So we create our nachala and our goral through the way that we choose to speak about it, which is crazy because sometimes something happens to us, and in the book The Choice that I mentioned by Edith Edgar, she really says this. The same thing can happen to two different people, but and the way you choose to frame it, the way you choose to decide to speak it out and to say this means that I will become, the Holocaust means that I will become invincible and I will have many children and I will defy Hitler, or it means I'm broken and I will never be connected to Hashem again. We choose our outcome. Al pi hagoral, our mouth chooses our goral, how it will turn out. With that shot was such a powerful idea, so deep. It's also in nature versus nurture. They see so often that they used to be that, okay, this kid grew up in an alcohol abusive home. That means that they're going to be an alcoholic and an abusive person. But often you see the opposite, that the same two people grew up in the same exact home, and one person will say, that I have no choice but to do the way I grew up in, or I choose to be the opposite. I will prove it wrong and I will never be like that because of the way I grew up in. So our the course that we take decides our outcome, which decides our goral, which way we'll end up being, which is super powerful. So I thank Ora, my friend, for this beautiful insight. We're going to get to that later. I'm going to get to that. Okay, I'll get to it now because you asked. So that was one of the things that the Rebbe speaks about a lot, is that it happened according to there's 3 levels of our connection to Eretz Yisrael. One of the things we say in Tav and Tefillah is, Ashreinu matov chalkeinu, umanayim goraleinu, umayafi yoshaseinu. There's our chelek, our goral, and our Yerusha. And we see it reflected in the Psukim over here. It says, Le'ela techalek aretz. So the level of chelek, our portion, actually is logical. The chelek, like it says, Larav tarba nachalaso. The nachala, or our chelek in Eretz Yisrael, goes according to logic. Whoever's a bigger shevet will get a bigger portion. Whoever's a smaller shevet will get a smaller portion. That's logic. Whoever is good at sefer, Hashem will put him on the earth. But it goes way deeper than that. It says that's not the only connection we have to Eretz Yisrael. That's just the surface level. On a deeper level, it's al pi hagoral. Ach begoral yichalek la'aretz. That even though it might seem like it's logical where we end up in Eretz Yisrael, it's strategic, whatever it is, the truth is that on a deeper level, the goral represents the level of our connection to something that's beyond logic. Because when do you make a lottery? When logically you have no way to decide. So you say, I'm going to leave it up to a lottery because logically there's no way I could decide this. The 2 chagim that have the word Pur, which means lottery, are Purim and Yom Kippurim. And on both those holidays, our connection to Hashem is on the core level, that no matter sin or no sin, whether we're righteous or not righteous, our connection to Hashem is much deeper and what goes way beyond what we do or don't do. So chelek is the next level of our connection to Hashem. It says Yaakov Chevel Nachalas or Nachala. It's based on our actions, based on what makes sense. We're righteous. We have a stronger bond to Hashem, like the rope. It says Yaakov Chevel Nachalas. So it's like a rope. The stronger our mitzvos are, the stronger our connection. The more connected we are to our neshama, the more we do to our mitzvos, the thicker the rope and the bond is to Hashem. And if we do every day we snip that bond and it weakens, and then we could do teshuvah and tighten that bond and it becomes even double knotted, right? It's even stronger. That's that logical connection we have to Hashem that we normally function on. But if we go deeper into our neshama on Shabbos, on Chagim, at times of inspiration, we connect to an even deeper connection, which is Goral, which is way deeper. We can bring out that connection that over there all sins are forgiven. And that's when Yom Kippur, Yom Purim, on that level, it's like the bond of a parent and child. That's not the normal day-to-day where, the more you listen to me, the happier I am with you, the more you give me nachas, the easier it is for me. On a much core, deeper level that we tap into sometimes in deeper situations where I love you no matter what. You're my child, you're my core, you're my essence. It's not something I could I could give any reason or rhyme to. I can't explain. There is reasons I love you, but even deeper than that, I love you even if you're horrible, even if you drive me crazy and drive me nuts, I love you so much. That's that core level. And then he says even deeper than that somehow is this even deeper level of Yerusha. He says that even when there's that goral, that's like that there's still the me and the you, and we're connected on this deep bond. There's the parent and the child. Yerusha, he says, is even deeper. The deeper level of our connection to Eretz Yisrael and why Eretz Yisrael is ours is not just because it makes sense because we got it on paper and we bought it, we got it, we inherited it, we conquered it. Not just because it belongs to us in our soul essence, but because it's a Yerusha. And Yerusha is not when there's two separate things. A Yerusha is like when they're one and the same. When someone gets a Yerusha, it says that the Sikha that I'm quoting, it says that he takes the place of the person that owns it. So you're mamash like representing, you're becoming one and the same. So you're Yoreshet, you're like an extension of the person who has the inheritance, and that's why you get it. So Yerusha is like we are an extension of Hashem. It's an even deeper level of our connection to Eretz Yisrael. We are mamash an extension of Eretz Yisrael. So that is the three levels of our connection to Eretz Yisrael. So one is logical and makes sense. Deeper than that is that our neshama is connected to it intrinsically beyond logic, and even deeper than that, we are an extension of it. So those are actually wasn't going to share this sikha. I learned it today and I thought it was beautiful, but because you asked, we got to. That's what Hashem wanted us to share. So let's go into a lesson from this now. A lesson the Rebbe says we learn from this is that often, let's start with Eretz Yisrael. First of all, our connection to Eretz Yisrael in general is beyond. A Jew's connection to Israel is not something that can be explained. It's not something you can logically say, we won the war. There's no reason. It's much deeper than any logical reason. A Jew's neshama belongs in Eretz Yisrael. We're intrinsically one. There's no rhyme or reason to it. It is the deepest thing that can never be explained to someone who doesn't understand. No one, it's not something we can logically explain. It's much deeper than that. Now it gets even deeper that not only is our connection to Eretz Yisrael as a nation so intrinsic, but where our specific chelak in Eretz Yisrael is, the exact portion is also illogical. And we think that we belong in a certain area. You think that this tribe should be here because they're good at sea and it's on the sea. That's why they're there. That's not why they're there. Many of us think we ended up in Efrat because it has great schools. It's close to Yerushalayim for our jobs. It's American. That's why we think we're here. There's great houses. There's a great Olim department. There's great Chabad of English speaking. That's why you think you're here. But the reason you're here is way deeper than that. Every one of us has a chelak in Eretz Yisrael, and Hashem makes sure that you end up wherever your soul is meant to be. Your neshama and Eretz Yisrael have a part. There's a part that your neshama needs to be in Eretz Yisrael, different than other people need to be in a different part of Eretz Yisrael. And your neshama will end up where it's meant to be. Regardless of whatever decisions you think you made to be there, Hashem will end up sending you. So you don't have to worry so much about where in Israel you're going to need to be. Hashem will make sure you need to get there. If you make the wrong choice, there's no wrong choice. Hashem will make sure that it doesn't work out so that your neshama could be where it needs to be. In fact, if you go down to like the Kabbalah, describes four holy, this is like even beyond this, besides for where you live in Eretz Yisrael, there's the four holy cities of Israel. And do you know what they are? Tzfat, Tveria, Hebron, and Yerushalayim. And those are the four holy cities of Israel. Now each of them, the Kabbalah says, connect to one of the four elements. And based on your neshama, different neshamas will be lit up and turned on and activated in different parts of one of these four cities. Some of us, when you have to find which of those four cities turns on your neshama, lights you up, and you go there when you need spiritual connection, when you need to connect to your neshama, you know that you'll go there. So for some people, it's Hebron. When they go to Hebron, they just feel alive, their neshama is alive, and that's maybe because their neshama is more connected to the element of earth, because Hebron is where the avos are in the ground. So Hebron is the element of earth. Some people feel like they go to Yerushalayim and they're alive. Yerushalayim is Eish. So people have a more fiery neshama. They feel like they're on fire in neshama because Yerushalayim is much the Eish, where the carbon, the Eish, the Beis HaMikdash of fire, the Mizbeach of Eish is there. So that's where the fire comes out in. And some people connect to Tveria, where the tzaddikim are buried, where is the land of water. That is when people go to Tveria, they feel like they go to the Kivrei tzaddikim by the water. It makes them feel connected to the land, connected to Eretz Yisrael. Tveria is the element of water. So we had earth in Hebron, fire in Yerushalayim, water in Tveria. Water is the seat of emotion, so someone who's more emotional might feel very connected to Tveria and the water and the tzaddikim buried there. And then the fourth one is Tzfat, which is the element of air. It's very spiritual, it's very ruchani, it's very elevated, it's up in the mountains. When Tzfat, some people go there and their neshama is activated, they feel that wisdom of Kabbalah, of the ancient Torah in Tzfat, and they feel turned on, what's a better word? They feel inspired over there. And the neshama feels uplifted over there, enlightened. So when we find, you have to find, it says, you find which of the holy cities inspires you the most, and make sure to make time to go there and inspire and activate your neshama. But what it teaches us also is that not everyone, although every Jew is connected to all of Eretz Yisrael intrinsically, there's
all of this and all four.
Yeah,
of those.
all four, hopefully. Even though all of Eretz Yisrael really connects to all of us, so all the holy cities will inspire all of us. We'll each have one chelak in Eretz Yisrael, not besides the four holy cities. There's actually a piece of the land, a portion of Israel that your neshama belongs in, and can do its avoda of elevating the earth of the world more over there than anywhere else. And that's why you'll end up wherever you end up in Eretz Yisrael. So when it's hard to figure out, it's okay. Hashem knows where you need to be, and it's
We're all the
right, exactly. The whole deeper idea of Yovel is that you need, even if you move around, ultimately your neshama goes back to where it belongs, to your shevet. 100%. Yeah.
That's where you have to be.
So to summarize, the words Ach Begorel Yechalek Et Haaretz Lishmos Matos Avosam Yechalu Al Pi Hagorel Techalek teaches us that our bond to Eretz Yisrael is beyond logic, it's intrinsic, and the chelek that we end up in Eretz Yisrael is also intrinsic and way beyond any logical reason that we can ever define. Then the Rebbe takes it even one step deeper. He says, finding our chelek in Eretz Yisrael, Eretz represents also our internal avodas Hashem. The same way that you come and you have your portion of Israel, when a soul comes down to her world, each of neshama has its own unique mission and its own unique mitzvah. So if you look at Eretz Yisrael as Eretz Chefetz, which is the land of the Torah and mitzvos, all of us, obviously, every Jew has an intrinsic connection to the entire Torah and all of the mitzvos, because we are one with the Torah, we are an extension of the Torah. The Torah is also our Yerusha, right? Torah, Sivalanu, Moshe, Morasha, Kehilas Yaakov, it's our Chelek, it's all of that. But even though all of the Torah is intrinsically one with us and we are at peace and at home when we are doing Torah mitzvahs, we connect to our neshama, there's always one area, one part of Torah, one mitzvah that is our chelak, that's our specific nachala. And in the times of the Kabbalists, they would look at a person, at their soul root, and say, your tikkun in this world, your focus should be on this specific mitzvah. You need to give a ton of tzedakah. For you, it's achnasas orchim. For you, it's learning Torah. For you, it's having good midas. And for you, it's pushing yourself to be a family person. For you, it's saying the bracha Asher Yatzar or making a bracha. Whatever that mitzvah was, they would guide that person to their specific path in this world, to say that is your tikkun, that is your path in this world. Now they could see souls, and they could also tell a person this is your part of this is your holy land. But now when we don't see souls, what do we do? How do we know what our neshama specific chelak is? That's not logical. It's illogical. Hashem gave each of us a specific nachala, a chelak, a mitzvah in the Torah, and it's described as the tzinor, that through that mitzvah, if we can go in really into that mitzvah, make that our passion, it's the tzinor, it's the pipe or the pathway that will unlock all of the other mitzvahs. It will help everything else make more sense. Everything will become easier if we unlock that one mitzvah.
You know what yours is?
No.
Anybody know what theirs is?
I'll tell you.
Wait, this is Torah. Teaching Torah.
Maybe it's Chassidut. We don't know.
Yeah.
So we don't need to know 100%. However, there's a few lessons we can learn from this. So even though we can't, we don't come down to this world and we're told this is this. The Rebbe says a few ways to figure out where your chelak is and where to unlock your chelak in the Torah and your chelak in Torah mitzvos. And I have different ways. Some of them is knowing your, figuring out your spheros. Some of the classes we did was like finding out which sphera you're strongest in, where you want to grow the most in, and then utilizing the kochos Hashem gave you, your strengths, and knowing that it's going to be somewhere in that area. So if your strengths are in chesed or in gevura, in tiferet, or in one of the netzach, you can find areas, if you understand those well, where you can excel in. The Rebbe says that sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes your one chelak, your in Torah mitzvos, in the Torah is so powerful, and if you would unlock it, you would become invincible, that the other side, the other forces of klipa and impurities are making it the hardest mitzvah for you. They're making it resisting so much because they don't want you to unlock that. The Yetzer Hara and the Satan and the opposing forces in the world are like, we don't want you to go to there, because if you go there, you're going to be invincible. You're going to have so much power of holiness. They're going to put so much resistance. So he says often it's where you find this unexplainable resistance. When you find this one mitzvah that's illogically difficult for you and you don't know why. This one mitzvah, It might be that it's being blocked for you and there's so much resistance because it's so powerful if you go there. Because it's going to make you be super strong and powerful and invincible if you access and unlock that. So he says to look where you have this weird resistance. You're like, I don't know why, but every time I come to that thing, I just have this like unexplainable resistance to it. That might be your biggest mitzvah. Second way, so one way is to see where your natural gifts are in the world, and then in those natural gifts Hashem gave you is your area to focus on. Another place if you're finding resistance in a certain mitzvah and you can bypass that and push yourself and say there's resistance because this is so hard for me. That's why the Alter Rebbe in davening and Tanya says that when you're davening and you have so many crazy thoughts, machshavos zaros, inappropriate thoughts or irrelevant thoughts that come up in davening, and you feel, oh, what's wrong with me? I'm such a bad person. He says, no, it's the opposite. It's because your davening is so holy. The Yetzer Hara is like, it's like a wrestling match. He sees your opponent getting stronger, like, oh, now I have to use over strong power to get you to stop davening. So the reason you're having all these thoughts is because you're so holy, and the Yetzer Hara is getting nervous. He's like, oh, you're gonna beat me. You're gonna be really invincible right now. Let me get as many distracting thoughts as I could right now to bring you down so you don't win this. So it's a sign that you're doing great. Because if you weren't davening so great, the Yetzer Hara would be like, whatever, it's a bad davening, I don't care. I'll let it slide. She could daven that. But when your davening is connecting, you just have to know this is my Yetzer Hara and I'm not gonna let it win and I'm gonna overcome it and I'm going to push past. But know that it's coming from your greatness. So when you have the resistance, try to say, let me push past this and see what happens. The third way that I love to know is finding your chelek is that Hashem leads you, your neshama, to where your chelek is in this world, to where you have sparks that you need to elevate, that your soul specifically, every soul, there's thousands of sparks of holiness in the physical objects in this world, and every soul has different sparks that she's drawn to, that she needs to elevate. Soul is feminine. And Hashem will lead you to those sparks. So Hashgacha Pratis is that Hashem will make you go, whether or not you want to those sparks that you need to elevate. And often in life, we're frustrated when we're stuck somewhere we don't want to be, in a job we don't want to be, in a physical place, when we're lost, when we took a detour we didn't want to take in life, metaphorically or even physically. If you're physically going somewhere and it was closed and you have to go somewhere else, that is Hashem saying that your sparks are not in this mall, but in that place that's further. Not in this Mayan that we got locked out when we went to Mayan on Friday and it was closed an hour before it was set online, but we have to go somewhere else to elevate the sparks. So instead of being frustrated that, oh, now I'm being stuck and I'm being sent somewhere else, instead be like, no, Hashem is guiding me to where the sparks I need to be in. So we're never stuck, we're sent. Hashem is sending us somewhere. So in the unexpected detours of life where we go, not where we want to go, where Hashem makes us go, when our plans don't go the way we want them to, that is Hashem sending us to where we need to find sparks there to elevate. So we say, okay, Hashem is sending me here. Let me see which sparks of in the materialistic world I can now utilize and elevate, where I can bring my light, where I can shine light in this area. Hashem is sending me somewhere where I can shine and elevate that area. So that's my third favorite way to find out where my mission is. And my kids even have this lens. Like years ago, my son and I were driving, we were lost. He's like, we're not lost. Hashem wants us to be here. We're supposed to be here because we have to say a pasuk in the Torah. He understood this deep idea. And that's, by the way, one of the reasons that the Rebbe pushed that even 2-year-olds, the first words that they learn is the 12 psukim. the Rebbe chose 12 fun, the 12 psukim were Torah, Shema, right? What are those? What's the deeper idea? One of the deeper ideas of that. You chose 12 psukim from the Torah, so that a child who my 2-year-old memorizes them, and that way you memorize psukim in the Torah that are fundamental, beautiful psukim, and when you end up anywhere in the world, you say those psukim to elevate the place that you end up in. So when the kids who are 2 are going on trips with their classes and their bunks, they're saying psukim to elevate the air, and they're on a hike or on a tiyul somewhere. We're here for a higher reason, to shine light in this area. Let us say psukim of Torah. So maybe that is the reason that this tree exists, that this tree has been waiting for us to elevate it by surrounding it with words of Torah. Maybe the land that we're standing on is waiting for us to stand here and make a bracha on. So we encourage them to understand that. So that is already like in their mindset. They memorize Mishnayos Baal Peh, Tehillim Baal Peh, so we can elevate the air around us wherever Hashem ends up sending us. And specifically, you find those places when you end up somewhere where you didn't think you were meant to be. Hashem is like, well, I know that you have to be here. So those are 3 beautiful ways. So now we could go 2 ways. By the way, let's just finish the summary of the Parsha. Going back to the summary of the Parsha, after the census of counting the Jewish people, now then comes the Goral, where the land is now divided up. The 12 tribes know where their district is going to be after they conquer the land. So first, no one's allowed to go settle in their district until the whole land is conquered. No, so first everyone conquers all of the land, then you go settle in your portion of the land. After every single, so not until the last person's portion is conquered does the first person go enter. Even if, Yehuda was conquered first, Yehuda doesn't settle in Yehuda until all the other tribes are conquered. Now comes these 5 heroic daughters of Tzlafchad, right? Love them. They're awesome. So they come. Why are they perturbed? What's bothering them? But Tikravna, the last source, Beno Slavchad, the daughters of a man named Slavchad, Ben Chefer, Ben Gilad, Ben Machir, Ben Menashe. He's a great grandson of Menashe. Ve'ela Shemosav, and these are their names, and it mentions them by name, and often the Torah tells us people without their names, and here it says their names: Machla, Noah, Chagla, Milka, and Tirza. Vatamodna, and they stand up lifnei Moshe, in front of Moshe, lifnei Elazar HaKohen, lifnei HaNesim, the Kol Eda. They get up in front of Moshe, the Nesim, everyone, the leaders of the whole nation and the whole congregation at the entrance of Olam Moed. And what do they say? Avinu meis b'midbar v'hu lo haya b'toch Eda. Our father died. He wasn't part of the rebellion of Korach. He died from his own sin, and we learned that he was the one who collected sticks on Shabbos in order to make a Kiddush Hashem to show what would happen if we were to break Shabbos, violate Shabbos. He sacrificed his life, and he had no sons, and we're all single. So where are we going to live in Israel? Because the way it worked is that it was divided, it was given to the sons, and the sons would share it with their sisters, and once the sisters got married, they would inherit with their husbands. So that's the way it worked. So women inherited with their husbands or sisters. He said, now
they were purposely single because they wanted to.
Exactly. Lama Yigar Hashem Avinu mitoch mishpachta. Why should our name, our family name, have no peace? Because even within the tribe, let's say they're part of tribe Menashe, it was then divided by families, by the size of the family. So you get this much land, you get this much land. Why should we have less? Because there is no son in our family. Give us a piece of the land. And Moshe says, good question, I'm going to bring it directly before Hashem. Okay, now the end of the parsha is just but Moshe empowers Yeshua. He gives him from his ruach to take him over and lead the people to Eretz Yisrael, and then all of the offerings of Shabbat, Rosh Chodesh, and the Chagim. I forgot to connect this to the 3 weeks. So first we'll talk a little bit about the 3 weeks. Then we can either focus on the feminist empowerment of these 5 Tzlachad, daughters of Tzlachad, and what it teaches us, the message of the Torah, what it means to be a true powerful Jewish woman and a single Jewish woman, an older single Jewish woman, or we could focus on the response of Moshe to the daughters of Tzlachad and what that teaches us about our blind spots and our cognitive bias.
I like that one.
Okay, fine. I'll link the female empowerment one. So just to connect it to the 3 weeks, it's brought down that there's a few similarities between Pinchas, what Pinchas did, the zealousness of Pinchas, and the Bein HaMitzarim, the 3 weeks which start today or yesterday, right? These 3 weeks, these Shlosh Shavuot. So one of them I heard is that Pinchas did what he did because he saw that the wall that divides us and the other nations was becoming breached. That breach in that wall, and Pinchas saw because there was a lot of interrelations going on, and Pinchas wanted to repair that wall. So what he did was fill that breached wall that was starting to crumble, the wall that divides us and the other nations. And Pinchas' zealousness created that wall again, this distance, that there's a reason that we don't intermarry. We need to keep our nation apart and separate so that we have our own nation and our own land. And not assemble, like Shana said, into their land. And that's what the 3 weeks is all about. It's all about correcting that breach. The 3 weeks begins with the breaching of the walls of Eretz Yisrael, where the nations breached our walls. And what we're doing in the 3 weeks is metaphor. Yeah, no, they actually breached our walls. They physically breached the walls of Yerushalayim. That's what happened in the beginning of the 3 weeks. The Pinchas one was a metaphoric wall. This is a physical wall. And what we're doing in the 3 weeks is the tikkun of doing the opposite. We're taking it to heart what happened in during that time, that breaching of the wall, and we're mitaking that. We're fixing that breach by strengthening our togetherness, by strengthening our distance, by strengthening Am Yisrael, by connecting stronger to Hashem to strengthen that metaphoric wall that surrounds us and protects us. So that's one of the beautiful metaphoric ideas or connections between these two ideas. Another one is that from Pinchas's negative act from such a dark thing that happened, this dark time where thousands of Jews died and sinned and committed adultery and idol worship and avodah zara. From there came a lot of light. It came the kahuna for Pinchas and his descendants, and we got Eliyahu Hanavi, who would ultimately will be the one to usher in the Geula Shlema, and the counting of the Jewish people, which happened as a result of the plague, which demonstrates every time Hashem counts us, it demonstrates His love for each one of us individually. So we see a lot of that beauty that came out of such a dark place, which has been an ongoing theme throughout these parshios. And now, entering the 3 weeks right now, we learn the same thing, that from destruction itself, grows the geula, that from the destruction, and we see that we can't build the third Beit HaMikdash, which by the way, one of the reasons we call this Bein HaMitzarim Shloshet HaShavuot, the 3 weeks and not the Esrim V'chad Yamim, because the 3 remind us of the goal. The reason that the destruction happened is for the third, the Shloshi, the Beit HaMikdash HaShlishi, the third Beit HaMikdash, which will be much more great than the first 2, which will be, bring within it shalom, just like Pinchas, by the way, brought shalom. It says, Natati lo t'brishti shalom, he brought peace, he brought shalom for all of Am Yisrael. Just like Pinchas brought shalom, the third Beis HaMikdash will bring eternal peace, that will be forever. The third Beis HaMikdash will be forever, it will bring revelation of the geula, but the geula can only come about if there is first destruction. There's a Yerida L'Tzarech Aliyah. Any growth only comes from a first disintegration. A seed can't grow unless it first disintegrates or germinates into the ground, and then it becomes a flourishing tree. We can't make a brand new Beis HaMikdash or a new house until you first tear down the first house. So even the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash that happened now was ultimately for a much greater purpose. And spiritually, it says that even in the beginning, in these times of destruction, in spiritual realms, we already see the growth that's to come. We already have the Beis HaMikdash being rebuilt above, but it can't come down into this world yet. So even above, we have this time of like destruction, and we already see the ultimate goal. And above, that's what Parshas Chazon is, to see the third Beis HaMikdash that's to come, that Hashem is holding and saying, I'm waiting for you to come and unlock it and draw it down and bring it down into this world. So light always comes through darkness. That's the way Hashem set up the world, to show that Hashem also God dominates light and darkness, and that's the way that it works. So in this time of these 3 weeks, we're mourning, but we're also uncovering, like Rabbi Akiva, that the true geula that is emerging from this destruction. So when someone tears down a house, and it's because they're bad people tearing down their house, that's bad. But when someone says, I'm tearing down my house because I'm going to build a much greater one, that's ultimately time to rejoice. So really hidden in these dark times is a deeper rejoicing that we're closer and closer to the geula and to the reason why the house of Hashem was torn. The reason that it was taken down was for rebuilding something much, much greater, and we focus on what our avoda is in this time, to rebuild the Beit HaMikdash through Achdus, because through unity, through strengthening the wall of togetherness that we can do. That is the few connections. Let's go to the story of the daughters of Tzlafchad. They come before Moshe Rabbeinu. These women, I'll focus a little bit on them, that on the empowerment of these female women, that oftentimes we feel like the women, according to the Torah, should be like behind the scenes and quiet, or in life, a lot of times we feel like, as women, it's not so, we shouldn't go out and ask for a raise. The Torah here says, who are these 5 righteous women that calls them these amazing women, and what are their qualities? They didn't wait for a man to come and give them a portion of land. We'll wait for our husbands and he'll give us a portion of land. They mamash went out publicly and stood up in front of all of the men and all the leaders and asked for what they needed and asked for what they felt was due to them. And this is such a powerful message to women everywhere. It's not unfeminine for you to go and ask for a raise, to ask for what's owed to you. And the statistics say that men are exponentially more likely to ask for a raise than women in the exact same situation. And it's because of a lot of what society has told us. It's not so feminine to go out and ask and demand a raise. It's not womanly. It comes across as like masculine. And the Torah's like, no, the most feminine thing you could do, this is what the righteous females did. They stood up. They didn't wait for a man to ask it for them. That is feminine. That's what it means to be a true feminine, to know and to take ownership and to say, no, we want to land in Eretz Yisrael. What greater thing to know than to not waste your potential, to say, we have potential, we want a part in Eretz Yisrael, and to not sit aside and wait for something to happen, not be afraid to go out and ask for what's ours. So this is this powerful message we tell our daughters, that it is feminine and it's very strong and it is very female to go and ask for what you deserve, a raise. If you feel like someone overlooked you in line, don't feel like, oh, I shouldn't say anything because I'm a girl. No, say something. Say, oh, you forgot me, or you overlooked me, or I think that I earned this position, I earned this place, or you forgot to mention me. It is such an empowering message to tell us as women, to know that it is not unfeminine and unladylike to ask. In fact, women being held back in boxes, we had this other beautiful talk about Medina being held in a box, and often you feel like, oh, women should be seen and not heard, and all these things that societies say, and you're like, what does Torah think about that? And we learned that Yaakov got punished for keeping Dinah in a box and not allowing her to go out and influence Esav and influence the women and influence the women. So if we withhold women and keep them behind and say, no, stay at home, don't go out and be so outspoken in front of all of them, the leaders of Am Yisrael, if we hold women back, it's the opposite of what we're supposed to be doing. Hashem gave us light and kochos, like we said earlier, and we're supposed to make sure that they shine in the entire world as far as we can go. And withholding the light that a woman has from the entire world is a sin, is a crime. So, and I love that, like I read this beautiful perspective on it, that like we need to create a society where we see how the men responded. No one said, oh, why are you women standing up in front of everyone? They responded, Moshe is like, wow, you brought up such a good idea. Let me take it to Hashem because I don't even know the answer. If we need to create a society where when women stand up and share Torah or are brazen, and the society that the men learn from this story as well, how to respond and how to welcome and honor the women that are stepping up to the table and shining their light. So create a society. So it goes both ways. I think aware of. So l'chaim, to finding our chelek in Eretz Yisrael, to having our own portion in the land, to Eretz Yisrael expanding to the full borders, like in the Parsha, to us having all of Eretz Yisrael restored back to its fullness, to all of Bnei Yisrael returning to our chelek in Eretz Yisrael, to knowing what our mitzvah is, finding our mission and our path in life, knowing where we should be, where we are, and having Hashem guide us in all the right directions in life. And the 3 weeks should be revealed for their ultimate greatness, for the revelation of the purpose of this destruction. The Geula should finally be revealed. Hi, and thank you for joining. If you enjoyed this, please share a comment, share with your friends, like and subscribe, and join next week.
Follow the link below to hear the fascinating class on cognitive bias and blind spots.
You can always sponsor a shiur in memory of someone loved, or in honor of a birthday or anniversary.